What if I told you that lust was never the real problem? That the guilt you feel afterward is not a sign of sin, but a symptom of inner conflict? What if everything you've been taught about desire is the very thing keeping you from becoming who you were meant to be? We don't talk about it often, but lust shapes us. It tempts us, tests us, and terrifies us. And when we try to bury it, it doesn't disappear. It hides, festers, and grows into guilt. But the truth is far more complex and far more liberating than we've been led to believe. Lust is one of the most misunderstood forces in the human experience. Some call it a sin. Others call it a biological urge. Some chase it blindly. Others try to bury it under shame and silence. But at its core, lust is nothing more than energy, raw, powerful, and deeply human. Like hunger or thirst, it arises uninvited, and when denied or misunderstood, it often takes darker shapes. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, believed that sexual desire is a primary human motivator, part of what he called the libido, the energy behind all creative and life-affirming acts. He wrote, "The sexual life of adult women is a dark continent for psychology." Even he acknowledged that lust is not evil, just deeply layered. Psychologically, lust is a surge of desire, often sexual, driven by a cocktail of chemicals. Dopamine, the molecule of motivation and reward; testosterone, which fuels sexual drive; and oxytocin, the bonding hormone. According to studies published in the Journal of Neuroscience, the brain's response to lust mirrors that of addiction, activating the same reward centers as substances like cocaine or sugar. It's the mind and body's way of pulling us toward pleasure, intimacy, reproduction, and connection. But lust doesn't ask for love. It doesn't seek meaning. It simply wants. And that's where the conflict begins. Not with the lust itself, but with what we believe about it. Guilt steps in when our actions violate our internal sense of right and wrong. It's not the act that causes guilt, it's the meaning we attach to it. Dr. Brené Brown, a leading researcher on shame and vulnerability, explains, guilt says, "I did something bad." Shame says, "I am bad." Guilt can be healthy, a guide that helps us stay aligned with our values. But shame is corrosive, and often guilt tied to lust becomes shame when left unspoken. Religiously, lust has long been demonized. In Christianity, it's one of the 7 deadly sins, believed to sever connection with God. But even within that framework, St. Augustine, one of Christianity's greatest theologians, once admitted, "Lord, make me chaste, but not yet." His honesty reveals a deeper truth, that lust isn't always defeated by suppression. Often it's made more powerful by it. In Eastern traditions like Buddhism and Hinduism, kama, desire including lust, is considered part of the human path, not a sin. Hinduism even honors kama as one of the 4 goals of life, alongside dharma, duty, artha, prosperity, and moksha, liberation. The danger these traditions teach lies not in the desire itself, but in attachment to it. The Buddha taught, it is craving, not lust alone, that is the root of suffering. Spiritually, there's a reversal. In Tantra, lust isn't rejected, it's revered. Sexual energy is seen as Shakti, a divine force. When harnessed consciously, it becomes a powerful path to inner awakening. In this view, lust is not separate from spirituality. It is one of its many languages. But here's where things get tangled. Most people don't live with conscious awareness of their desires. They're caught in the loop. Lust, indulgence, guilt, shame, and self-hate. And that guilt, it seeps into everything. It quietly tells you that you're not pure, that you've failed, that you don't deserve love, abundance, or even peace. Neuroscience confirms this. When we carry unresolved guilt, the brain's prefrontal cortex, responsible for focus and decision-making, becomes less active. Chronic guilt is also linked to anxiety, depression, and lower self-esteem. In short, guilt distorts your identity. It blocks growth not because of what you did, but because of what you believe that act says about who you are. So it's not the lust that stops your growth, it's the guilt that follows it. When you live in guilt, you shrink. You lower your worth in your own eyes. You start believing you are unworthy of becoming the version of yourself you dream about. And so you stay stuck, not because you're bad, but because you believe you are. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist, once said, "Shame is a soul-eating emotion." But what if the problem was never the lust? What if lust was just an urge, morally neutral, like hunger? What if the true spiritual work isn't to destroy lust, but to meet it without judgment, to explore it without shame, to understand where our beliefs came from and whether they still serve us? Alan Watts, the British philosopher, challenged Western shame-based thinking around desire. He said, "There is nothing more dangerous than a man who thinks sex is dirty, because then he cannot integrate his own energy, and it will control him instead." In that light, guilt becomes a compass. It points not to sin, but to misalignment. It says, this isn't who you believe you are, and that's powerful, because it gives you a choice not to suppress yourself, but to align your actions with your truth, or to change your truth if it no longer feels honest. Lust will always exist. It is a fire built into our very being, but we are not slaves to it, nor do we need to chain it. We can learn to use it, to understand its language, to let it fuel creativity instead of conflict, connection instead of shame, purpose instead of paralysis. The path to becoming the version of yourself you desire does not begin with denial. It begins with truth. And the truth is this: you are human. You desire. You fall. You feel. You rise. And that's not a flaw. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. You may also like this video.